Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How are you this morning?
Good.
Very well? Oh, it's the afternoon. I'm sorry. I don't know 6 a.m. from 6 p.m. Thank you so much for coming to the M.A.J. Mario Bennekin Symposium, Black History Symposium. And we have a great speaker for you today. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce him. His name is Dr. Dennis Turner, Jr., M.D., General Surgery. After second. Dr. Dennis Turner, M.D., is a general surgeon, author, and former hospital administrator. Dr. Turner earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in biology with a minor in chemistry at Morehouse College. Before entering medical school, he volunteered for 3 months in Ghana with Operation Crossroads Africa, and he helped to build the Village Community Center. He earned his Doctor of Medicine degree at Meharry Medical College in 3.5 years. While at Meharry, he completed clerkship at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and Jupiter Army Medical Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. He spent 2 years as a captain in the United States Army as a general medical officer, where he received the Army Commendation Medal for Outstanding Service. At Emory University Hospital and Medical Center, Dr. Turner was the first African American chief resident in general surgery and the first African American to complete and graduate from the prestigious general surgery residency program. Dr. Turner would later become the medical director and VP for medical affairs at Atlanta's Southwest Hospital and Medical Center. In 2021, Dr. Turner was honored with a special Congressional Recognition Award by U.S. Representative Lucy McBath. Emory University's Department of Surgery Resident Committee on Diversity renamed its annual Resident Pioneer Award as the Dr. Dennis Turner Resident Surgeon Pioneer Award. That's a mouthful. In addition, Emory University Hospital, Midtown, recognized Dr. Turner for his distinguished career of more than 40 years as a staff surgeon. He was the inaugural Martin Luther King Jr. observant keynote speaker for the brand new city of Sandy Springs, Georgia. Dr. Turner has published scientific articles and is the author of several copyrighted books and manuscripts. Dr. Turner is happily married to Janet Tillman Turner, and they are proud parents of five Spelman College graduates. That deserves a round of applause, I think. Also, Fox 5 Atlanta and WXIA recognized Dr. Turner and his amazing family during Black History Month in 2003. Please, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Dennis Turner. And before he speaks, I just want to tell you, we have a QR code for attendance. Okay, thank you, Dr. Turner.
Thank you. Appreciate that. When I was a kid growing up and they would introduce speakers and they would say all these nice things about them. And at the end of that introduction, I would say to myself, that person must really be old. So thank you very much. The thing that I want to say, first of all, is that I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm at home. And as you heard, I went to, can you hear me okay? As you heard, I went to Morehouse College here in Atlanta. And Morehouse was a tough school, okay? It was a good school, but it was a tough school, okay? So I had in my mind that I'm going to graduate in 4 years. I'm not going to stay 5 years like some of my contemporaries. I'm going to get out of here in 4 years. So during the summers, guess what I did? I went to summer school. But guess where I went to summer school? Georgia State. Georgia State. It was not a university then. It was considered mostly a night school. So I worked during the day and I took courses in the evening at Georgia State. So I sat in your seat a few years ago. So I'm glad to be back here. So thank you. Right, get this. Let's try this from there. Let's just see what I'll pass on. I'll give it a try. This one will leave it kind of good. Slide two. Is it working? Yeah, you're trying to. So when I was a kid growing up, and let me give you my disclaimer as well. I am a scientist and a general surgeon. I am not a historian, okay? So if the dates and the times are a little bit off, please forgive me, okay? You guys deal with historical facts. And my topic is growing up Atlanta, my story, okay? When I was a kid growing up, Atlanta had approximately 500,000 people. Now it has 6.5 million people, okay? And if you don't believe me, just ride down Peachtree Street and in front of Piedmont Hospital. It's this big billboard that I go by periodically just so I can keep up with the population. 6.5 million people in the metropolitan area. That is a lot of folks, okay? And Atlanta continues to grow. So welcome to Atlanta. I love Atlanta. Everywhere I go, people ask me about Atlanta and they want to move here. Because of you guys, because of what you're doing, okay? This is Grady Hospital. This is where I was born in the 40s, okay? Grady at that time had a black side, and this is Black History Week. Grady had a black side and a white side. I was born on the, guess what? Black side. Okay. Grady is a fantastic place. If you ever get a chance to just visit, please just go see it. It's a great hospital, does a good job. That's important to me because I was born on the black side of Grady. And a few years later, as you heard, I went back as the chief resident at Grady. That meant that as a surgeon, I was over all of the surgery residents and most of the departments at Grady. See how things go around? Born there, came back as chief resident, and you heard I was the first Black person to finish the general surgery program. This is what Atlanta looked like when I was growing up, okay? It was a segregated society, okay? We lived on the west side, and everybody else lived around us. We had fountains that said for white only, and another fountain that said for colored only, okay? Same water, same order, but that's just the way it was. Also had separate colored waiting rooms. Colored waiting rooms. Okay. There was a physician by the name of Charles Drew. Fantastic physician, African American. Charles Drew invented, hi. Charles Drew invented the techniques for storing blood. The techniques that we use now to transfuse patients were started by Charles Drew, okay? But Charles Drew set up all of the blood banks during World War II, but he got disillusioned because once again, we wanted to have white blood and black blood, different blood banks. Yes. Yeah. So Charles Drew said, you don't have to do that. We're trying to save lives in World War II. So he left, but he's still given credit for blood banking and most of the work that we do now. This is a picture of downtown Atlanta. Hope you can see that. This is the 5 Points area. And if you go down to Atlanta now, you will see the 5 Points area. It's changed a little bit, but that's where most of the stores were, the shops were. And that's where we went to shop. Once again, I live on the west side. So we could walk there. If we took the bus, the bus had sort of a petition, okay? Once again, it's Black History Week, okay? You're historians. The blacks were to sit in the back and the whites were to sit in front, okay? If a white person came in and needed a seat, the black person had to get up and give the white person a seat. That's just the way it was. So guess what? We walked downtown. We didn't ride the bus. My folks said, walk downtown. Piedmont and 10th in the 40s, Fox Theater, 1940, okay? Does everybody know where the Fox Theater is? Yes. It's a historical architectural structure and it's famous all over the world, okay? But guess what? They wanted to tear it down to build a condo or some apartments. And the first black mayor of Atlanta, Maynard Jackson, who's a Morehouse man, said, no, we're not going to tear this building down, we're going to keep it. So he basically raised the funds and did the political things that a mayor would do to save the Fox. So the Fox is here today because of Maynard Jackson, okay? Think about this. Maynard Jackson could not even go in the front door of the Fox. He had to go in the back and sit up in the backs. Whites in the front, blacks in the back, okay? But he saved the Fox, okay? What goes around comes around, okay? What goes around comes around. This is my mom and dad. My mom just turned 102. Yeah. And she can tell you about the stock market right now, okay? I'm serious. She can't walk from here to there, but she can talk to you. Her mind's still good, thank goodness. My dad's 101, was 101 and just passed a few months ago. But they grew up in rural Georgia and could not get an education. As far as they went was the 8th and 10th grade, okay? But they were hardworking people. And my dad volunteered to go to World War II. He volunteered, okay? He was on the beach of Normandy during the Allied invasion. Yeah. But he tells this story about him being a guard. He would guard the German prisoners. But as he found out is that they were actually treating the German prisoners better than they would treat the black soldiers. But that didn't deter him and his colleagues from doing that job. So he came back to Atlanta, became a mechanic, and worked at Cummins Diesel until he retired, okay? But out of that union came my siblings, that's my mom and dad, 5 siblings, okay? My brother's a doctor, dentist. My sister has her master's and was one of the first Black dietitians at Emory University here in Atlanta. That's me in the middle. I'm a surgeon. My other sister has a master's and worked as an administrator in nursing facilities and has published 2 books. The last of the 5 is a lawyer, doctor of jurisprudence, okay? So out of that union came 5 kids, 3 doctors, and 2 with master's degrees. And I say that to say that even though they were not educated, they made sure we were educated, okay? My sister even argued a case in the United States Supreme Court, okay, when she's working for the city of Houston. All of us were publicly educated, okay? All of us went to public schools, schools that we pay for, you pay for, we pay. That's where we went. This is the family, which includes the kids, the grandkids, and the great-grandkids, okay? When I was looking up some of this, and when WXIA and Fox 5 looked at it, from Dennis and Doris, who never finished high school, there are over 30 kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, all of whom have at least a college degree and or a graduate degree. That's a fact, okay? They have gone to over 45 colleges and universities, including Harvard, New York University, University of Chicago, Georgetown, Georgia State, Boston University, of course, Morehouse, Clark, Spelman, Morris Brown. Over 40 colleges and universities. All those folks have degrees. So they came from a family that grew up on the farm, on the farm. In the summers, they would send me, because I was the oldest son, to the farm. The farm was in Henry County and Stockbridge. That was all rural, all country, okay. So we get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning and we take the cows up to pasture. That means you get them up, you take them up someplace where they can eat, have a good time, then you bring them back in the evening. And we would grow things and buy things, and we would pick peaches. Had a little bucket. If you fill that up with peaches, you get a nickel. Well, that was a lot of money way back then. Okay, a nickel was a lot of money. The good thing is that my parents let me keep my nickel. Okay, so I got lots of nickels. So that's the family, and some of my family is here. Hold the hands, family. And as you know, Dr. Denise Turner is my daughter, and of course she has her PhD, so you wouldn't expect less. Here is a picture in the Atlanta Daily World that they did about the 5 Spelman graduates: Denny, Donnie, Dawn, Dory, and Deidre. They're all named after me, okay? And they show my wife, Janet. All 5 of them went to Spelman, and my wife, Janet Tillman Turner, also went to Spelman. Her grandmother went to Spelman. And we have a bunch of cousins who went to Spelman, okay? So that's that AU connection that we're going to talk about a little bit more. And that's important because I think without AU and Georgia State and the Atlanta colleges and universities, Atlanta would not be where it is today, okay? My wife's father was N.P. Tillman Jr., Dr. N.P. Tillman Jr., who was professor, dean of a college, and president of a college. His father was Dr. N.P. Tillman Sr., yeah, who was also a PhD. Both went to the University of Wisconsin and were the first father and son to get PhDs from Morehouse College. That's the significance of that. This is an article that was written in Essence Magazine, February 2017. And this shows a group of ladies, and it's called Full Circle. It shows a group of ladies who worked in the United States Senate and US Congress. All of them worked for US congressmen and senators, okay? In the early years, African Americans had wanted a museum for themselves, okay? But year after year, they were refused to have an African American museum. But these ladies, my daughter is Donnie Turner, who is here, worked for United States Senator Max Cleland from Georgia. Senator Max, some of you may remember him, but she worked for him. And he was determined to get the bill passed and the appropriations passed so that they could build the African American Museum. So year after year after year, they go before Congress and they say, we need to do this. So finally, these four ladies, my daughter and the other three Black women, were able to get President George Bush and Dick Cheney to sign off on the bill that allowed them to build the National Museum of History in Washington, D.C. And there's a picture of it you can see right here. Had it not been for those ladies, we wouldn't have it. So if you ever go to D.C., take a look at it. This is also a proclamation by the late, great John Lewis honoring these ladies who were able to get that museum built. Okay, it's in the congressional record. So if you ever get a chance, you can read that. I won't read it today, but it's there. This is the same daughter receiving a proclamation from the city of Atlanta and the Fulton County Commission for raising the funds and getting the legislation passed to build a museum. Guess how much they raised, or helped to raise? $500 million. Wow. It's an amazing story. And people donated. Oprah Winfrey and my fraternity, Kappa Boulay, and people all over the country helped to contribute to build that. This is a picture of traffic in Atlanta. All of you know that. So Atlanta hadn't changed much from that standpoint, okay? But Atlanta's a great city. This is where we started. My parents moved from the country, from the farm, to an area called Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is on the other side of Northside Drive, okay? This is the little house that we grew up in. This little house here. My mother didn't like it because they call it a shotgun house. Some of the older people will remember. You would stand in the front of the house and you could see the back door. So she said, I got these kids, we gotta move. But this is a map of Atlanta at that time. You see I-20 here, which was built and basically split part of the community. But this little shack right here, I went by there recently, it's gone. They tore it down. I was hoping I could get it, but they tore it down. And they built a condo there. Those houses now are selling for over $400,000. It's amazing, okay? I don't think that was 400,000, okay? In Pittsburgh, there was a railroad track. Once again, Atlanta history. The railroad track divided areas of Atlanta, okay? African Americans on one side, whites on the other side. This is the train track. And we were on this side of the train track. But on the other side, to give you your bearings, it's Northside Drive, Pasco, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so you know what I'm talking about. I went by there a couple days ago, and guess what? The tracks are still there. It's still there after all these years, from the 40s or early on. Every day, the train comes by there and sits there for hours, which means that if you live on this side, you can't go to the other side. So you can't get to Atlanta on this side. Went by there again a couple days ago, tracks are there, and guess what? The train shows up and just sits there. But see, I'm from Atlanta, so I know the trick. So we just went around. There's a way to go around. University Avenue, Pryor Street, on around, okay? But it's still there. Those people who live there still have to deal with that, but they know what I know, so they go around. This is Mary Street and McDaniel Street. That's the Pittsburgh area. This little house, and I show this was the second house that we had. Okay, after my mother said she didn't like the shotgun house, my dad, just a mechanic's salary, bought this little house. It's on the west side of town. If I stand in front of that house, is still there, by the way. If I stand in front of that house, guess what? I can see Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Vine City. Whole area has completely changed, but this house is still there, okay? That's important because my parents, like your parents, wanted to put you in positions so that you could learn and grow and be educated and advanced, okay? So they moved to the west side. I love this area because when they put us there, we were surrounded by everybody. We had doctors, we had lawyers, we had business people, we had judges, everybody lived together. Another significant thing about this is that every time my parents moved someplace, and they moved about 4 times, they would desegregate an area that would soon become segregated. True fact. Historians, check it out. I'm a scientist, I deal in facts, okay? Whites moved out, blacks moved in. So all of my neighbors were black. But I was in that environment where I could learn and grow. And I would cut grass on the weekends, and I met this guy named Charlie Moreland, who just happened to be the president of the Alumni Association for Morehouse College. And we would sit down and we would talk, give me a Coca-Cola, and he would talk about Morehouse and AU Center. And he said, Turner, you got to go to Morehouse. Okay. So that was kind of in my head. So they integrated 4 neighborhoods. From this area, Ashby Street was divided. On the right side, everybody would go to A.F. Herndon Elementary School. Everybody else would go to E.R. Carter. That was important to me because A.F. Herndon was a brand new school. We were the first class, 1952, we were the first class in A.F. Herndon. What goes around comes around is that my wife's cousin, my cousin, became the principal of A.F. Herndon Elementary School before she passed. Okay, Dr. Betty Tinsley, same school I grew up in. But we used to play out there. This was all country where they built this school. We used to play out there. And I was a little upset because they tore down where we used to play and built a school, but that was okay. I wanted to get an education. So that's the school, Alonzo Franklin Herndon School. I had a good time there, and Atlanta was moving westward. It's moving westward. And what I realized was that I was around some very smart people. And in order to stay up with those people, I had to study, folks. I had to study. Talking about in the 50s, I had a classmate, and you know, teachers would ask you, what do you want to be in life? What do you want to do? I had a classmate in the 50s to stand up and say, I want to be an astronaut. True story. In the 50s, we hadn't even developed the moon shot and all this. There's a little kid, black kid, talking about I want to be an astronaut. So it stuck in my head. I don't think he ever made it, but at least he had a dream of what he wanted to do. The other thing is that I would get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to be a school patrol. The school patrols would stand out in front of the school and direct the traffic. Okay, make sure everybody was safe. At the white belt and the whole 9 yards. The reason I did that was because every year the school patrol would go to Washington, D.C. And the outstanding school patrol person would go free. Okay. I was captain of the patrol. So you know who was going, right? I did my job, but I went to Washington, D.C. for 3 days, and we went on a train. The train is now at the Gulch downtown. If you ever go down there, the old Federal Russell building where they built a huge hotel, that's where the train station was. Well, now they got to tear all of that down and rebuild it, condos, restaurants, you name it. You won't recognize. But anyway, I got a chance to go to the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Monument, and I really enjoyed going to the Smithsonian Institute. If you haven't been there, you need to go. There's so much stuff in there. Okay, so much history in there. I really enjoyed that. So went on Friday and came back on Sunday. The other thing that was significant about A.F. Herndon, and some of you guys don't know this, some of the older folks may remember, is that we were in the Cold War. And what that meant is that we were afraid that the Russians were going to drop bombs on us. Okay, and we might drop bombs on them. So once a month, the PTA would line up a group of parents and they would drive cars in front of the school, and we would evacuate to those cars. Every student would get in a car and then drive outside of Atlanta. We would also get on the desk once a week, because if they dropped a bomb, we wanted to survive, right? So we did that all the way through elementary school. We drive out, they would drive us back. But that was kind of stressful. That was kind of stressful. And I remember once they put me in a car and I started throwing up, vomiting, okay? It was high, we were rushing, and somebody took a picture of me and they put me in the paper. That was way back in the 50s, y'all. I haven't been able to find that, but maybe somebody will find it for me. Because we live on the west side of Atlanta, we formed our own groups, our own associations, Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black dentists, business people. I worked at a little grocery store called Great Savings in my neighborhood, okay? And I mention that because I started off bagging groceries, and you know what baggers do. And I would work Friday afternoons and Saturday. I made $6.50, okay? But guess what? I got tips. I got tips. So I wasn't working for the $6.50, I was working for the tips, okay? But we would take people all around to their communities, to their home. Had a little bike and a little basket, put the grocery in. But when I was doing that, I met a guy who was so smart, African American. He was so smart. This guy back in the 50s, do you know what telegraph is? Anybody ever seen a telegraph? You kind of press a button and you say dot dash, maybe letter A, dot dash dash, maybe letter B. And this is how we communicated. All over the world, military, everybody. And this guy was in his bedroom, dot dashing. Dot dash. I couldn't do it, but I was watching him. It's back in the 50s, just a great community to be in. Washington Park was our park. Okay, that's the Black folks' park. We would go there during the summers, and we would be able to swim and do all those things. If you look closely, you'll see this little building right here, Washington Park Library. It was right down the street from Washington Highway. I went to high school, okay? If we had a school assignment or had to do something, we had to go to the library. I had to walk to the library, check out a book. If you were wealthy enough, you could buy your encyclopedias and bring them home, but we weren't wealthy enough to do that. So I spent a lot of time in the library, okay? I have medical students now. I give them assignments, and guess what they do? what do, folks? They pull out their phones. And they got more information in 5 minutes than I could get in 5 hours, okay? But that's the way it was back in the 50s and 60s, okay? Booker T. Washington High School, that's where I went to high school. And that's me. Well, you can't see me yet, but anyway, I went to Booker T. Washington High School. Great school, great school. That's me doing my science project. I did it for 2 years. I grew plants and I measured them and I put them in the sun and I did a lot of different things. And I won a bronze medal and I won a silver medal at the science fair. Okay. I thought that was pretty good until I saw this guy walking down with a robot. I'm serious. 1960. Okay. He got the gold. That's okay. He was a smart guy. Okay. But anyway, I did that. And this is Washington High School. You've heard a lot about Booker T. Washington High School. Why is that important? Because in 1890s, there was a ruling, help me out, historian, 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson. And that ruling said that separate but equal was okay. Okay. The first public high schools were built in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Georgia in the late 1890s. Okay. Washington High School was built in 1924, almost a quarter of a century before you go to high school. So if you were Black in Georgia and you wanted to go to high school, you usually went to the AU Center. The colleges had high school courses. Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Morris Brown. That's where you went to high school. So when they built Washington High in 1924, okay, and it was hard getting that school built. And I can tell you how they built it, but that'll take a few minutes. But anyway, there were some political things going on. They didn't want to build the high school, and Black folks could not vote, even though the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment had been passed. They could vote for bond issues, but they couldn't vote for individuals or people, okay? Well, when the bond issue came up to build a high school, okay, all of the folks voted against building a high school for African Americans. So guess what? Bond issue came up again, and folks got organized. Black folks got organized. NAACP got organized. So they voted down the next bond issue, voted it down. So nobody got any money, okay? So I went back and said, well, we may have to build them a high school so we can build a high school. So in 1921, 1924, Washington High School was built. If you look closely in the front, you see a statue of Booker T. Washington. And if you look real close, what he's doing is he's taking a veil off of a slave. And what it says is, he lifted the veil of ignorance from slaves. So the school was named after him. If you look real close at the top of that hill, there and there, you'll see 2 marble benches. Those marble benches says, class of 1964. That's my class. I did that. I left the benches there as a reminder of our class and our commitment to excellence. So they're still there. 1964. This is me in front of the statue. Little kid doing science project now, general surgeon, practicing at Emory University for over 50 years. Okay. That's me. That's me again in front of Washington High School. And you can see class of 1964. That's me. This is from a historical standpoint. Pascal Brothers on MLK, for those of you who have heard about it, it was the first really nice restaurants for African Americans. And you can see the 2 brothers there, the Pascal brothers. That restaurant is still up, but it's on North Side Drive. So you'll get a chance to go. It's got great fried chicken. Okay, if you like fried chicken, go. And you can get some vegetables. Okay. Inside it shows some of the remarkable people who have visited there, like Martin Luther King Jr., Junior Bond, and all the presidents used to come and go there. Okay. The gentleman here was a patient of mine, so I got to know him really well and learned a lot about how they work to get that restaurant up and running. And as I said before, it is still running. Okay. So I left Washington High School. It was the first African-American high school in Georgia. Okay. So if you wanted to go to high school and you were Black, you had to come to Atlanta. By the time they built a second high school in 1949, Washington High School had 4,700 students. It was built for like 800. Yeah. We used to sit side by side, shared stuff. And we got a good education. We had good teachers. And that was the key. We had good, dedicated, African-American, white teachers as well. Okay. We had the first Russian history class, I'm told, in the state of Georgia. We had a Russian teacher who had spent some time in Russia, came back to Washington High and taught Russian. I took that class because I was interested in Russian history. Okay. So it was a good school. Physics and calculus and all that good stuff, history, social sciences, all that good stuff. We got that. This is the AU Center. You know about Morehouse, you know about Clark, you know about Spelman, you know about AUC. The importance of this academic center is that there is no academic center in the world like this. There's no academic center that has that many schools dedicated to educating everybody, but of course, African Americans primarily in the world. And it's my opinion that because of these schools, Atlanta is what it is today. Okay. Also, there was a gentleman by the name of Benjamin Mays that you'll hear about. Benjamin Mays was an African American who grew up in South Carolina and who went to base, Phi Beta Kappa, came back to Morehouse and brought all of those intellectuals back with him. Morehouse College. While I was at Morehouse, I pledged a little fraternity called Omega Psi Phi. Any Omegas in the room? Okay. Any Alphas in the room? Okay. So I pledged Omega Psi Phi. If you look closer, you see Spelman College. And if you look really close, you'll see this young lady right here on the maroon and white float. That's my wife. Okay. Spelman was all female and Morehouse was all male. Okay. That's across the street from each other. And Doc Clark Atlanta is right across the street. AU and Morris Brown's up the street. The guys at Morehouse didn't want to sit, Sean, they didn't want to sit in that room all day with other men. So we went over to Spelman. You got it. And at that time, we were able to go to any school that we wanted to go to. So I took courses all over, but a lot of them at Spelman, okay? And we've been married 58 years, and you saw the 5 girls. And the grandkids are here somewhere. Grandkids are here somewhere. They're scattered all out. So 3 boys and 2 girls. I had 5 girls. Now I got 3 grandsons and 2 granddaughters. Okay. Georgia State University in 1960s. Okay. That's where I went to night school. You had one building, folks, and you had the Hurt Center, which was in front of it. And we would basically hang out there at night and evenings. Wouldn't do it now. I wouldn't do it now. Maybe, but that's what the building looks like. I told you I took those 2 classes and I passed. Okay, Georgia State Stadium. Hank Aaron and the Atlanta Braves. I'm gonna run through this because I know we're running out of time. Atlanta Braves put Atlanta on the map. This man, Henry Aaron, helped do that. And he was a fraternity brother of mine. The significance of that was that to show you how Atlantans think in 1962, Ivan Allen, who was the mayor, said, I'm gonna build a stadium and bring this baseball team. I'm gonna bring professional baseball to Atlanta. Well, Atlanta didn't have a stadium, so what's he gonna do? So he went out, raised $18 million, built the Atlanta Fulton County Stadium without a baseball team. And then he went out to try to find somebody, but Milwaukee was not doing well, so they were kind of looking to go someplace. But there was some question as to whether the Black athletes would come to Atlanta. This is the 60s, folks, remember. So still a lot of segregation, a lot of problems going on. So Hank signed on and he came. The rest is history. The first year, the Braves had 1.5 million people. If you don't believe me, check it out. 1.5 million people. They came in 1965. That's Hammer and Hank. He didn't like to be called Hank. He preferred the name Henry, but we all call him Hank. World Cup is coming, folks, so get ready. Falcons, that's me, little me, when I was in elementary school, Morehouse, my diploma. That's me going to Ghana. We volunteered to work there. We had to raise the money to go, but I went. Harvard Medical College, where I got my degree in medicine. I did meet all the requirements and was able to finish in 3.5 years. I was at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, Tripler, Fort Gordon, Boston University. I spent some time there, and they thought enough of me to give me the Army Commendation Medal because we started a program called the Amos's program, where you train PAs and other folks to do the work that doctors couldn't do, because by that time Vietnam was winding down. That's my honorable discharge. So on my wall at home. This is Emory University Hospital, Midtown. Old timers still call it Crawford Long. You can see the Crawford Long Hospital on the left, Emory University Hospital there. This is the person who's responsible for me being a general surgeon, a guy named Dr. Richard Amerson. He was at Emory, fantastic surgeon. And I learned a lot from him. And he was just quiet, easygoing, but an excellent surgeon. And he was a surgeon's surgeon. That's where surgeons go to get operated, this guy. That's me at Grady Memorial Hospital. Told you about, they had a pyramid. We started out with about 20. Okay, first year, we only got 8 slots up here for chief residents. I was fortunate enough, thanks to Dr. Amerson and working hard, to be one of those residents. And this is me as chief resident with a mustache and with the glass, a little bit of an afro by then. 1979. These are some of my colleagues at Emory. That's me. That's me. That's me. Sorry about that. But that's what we do. We're surgeons, okay? This is me helping to build Carrie Steele Pitts Home for Children. These are for orphans in Atlanta. We raised $8 million to build a new building, and we're out there at groundbreaking. That's Carrie Steele. She was Spelman graduate, but was also an orphan. Carrie Steele, Miss Allison. That's me with Andrew Young, my wife, Janet, who worked with Andy Young. I'm almost finished, folks. Andy Young ran for mayor of Atlanta in 1982. And he really didn't want, and he'll tell you this, he really didn't want to run at first because he had a family. He's trying to make a living. But anyway, he was convinced to go by a lady who shouted at him at a meeting. But I just finished my residency and was doing pretty good. And you know, once you achieve, guys, you want to go out and buy yourself something. So I bought a brand new Mercedes Benz, okay? I didn't see it for 2 months. Why? Because my wife was carrying Andrew Young around Atlanta politicking. He didn't know Atlanta that well. I don't think he's watching, but he didn't know Atlanta that well, but she's from Atlanta, so she knew everybody. Her mother was a principal and the father, all those folks were here. So she would take him to the places that he needed to go to meet people to get elected. And that's Andrew Young there. Martin Luther King Jr., of course, is from Atlanta. The only Nobel laureate in the state of Georgia is Martin Luther King Jr. That's me with Andy. That's me up at Forsyth County. It's another story. I'll tell you about it later. I will say that Hosea Williams went up to Forsyth County to desegregate that area. 75 people, they ran him out. He came back to Atlanta and everybody got upset. And then we went back the next week with 20,000. I'm serious. The person who was leading the Fulton County delegation was the sheriff. Sheriff was my patient. Okay, so I felt pretty good. I felt pretty safe because the first time they went, bottles, sticks, bricks, the whole nine yards. When 20,000 people went, nothing happened. Okay, 3,000 National Guard, FBI, security went with us on buses to Forsyth County. Those are mayors of Atlanta. You'll recognize them. That's the 1996 Olympics. My wife and I worked in the Olympics. I was the physician for the country of St. Lucia. She was the attaché, which meant that we took care of all of the athletes from St. Lucia. She made sure they had what they needed. I lived at Georgia Tech and slept with the athletes. At that time, it was a terrible place to sleep, okay? I'm sure they've done better since then. So that's Atlanta getting the Olympics, Atlanta Olympics. Maynard Jackson, mayors. And if you ever see that clip of them, once Atlanta got the nomination, these folks were so ecstatic they almost wanted to cry. This is the picture of the city council members of Atlanta. Some of them I know, they do a good job for the most part. This is Southwest Atlanta, where I was medical director and VP for medical affairs and chief of surgery for a few years. This is the award that Dr. Garrett talked about, that the Dr. Dennis Turner Resident Surgeon Pioneer Award from Emory. Southside Medical Center, I've been a consulting surgeon there for a number of years. They went from 1 center to 17, okay? In poor neighborhoods around the state. Dr. Williams does a good job there and makes sure that we don't turn anybody away. Anybody who comes get free care. So that's what it looks like. That's me when I gave the first Martin Luther King Jr. Award, Sandy Springs, which was a brand new city. That's my life membership to NAACP, Presidential Award from the Atlanta Medical Association. I was a founding member of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. We're proud of that. We went into the poorest areas in Atlanta, adopted a school, and we told those kids, if you graduate high school, we'll pay for your college. And all of them graduated, okay. Atlanta Fulton County Airport, biggest airport in the world, busiest airport in the world, made by a Black man, Maynard Jackson, on time and under budget, okay. Atlanta, Georgia, selected as host city for the World Cup. This is Andy Young making a modern Atlanta. And he was nice enough to do this. It says to Janet and Dennis, peace and blessings, Andrew Young. This is a city that you helped to build. Thanks.
I'd like to say something. So, Dr. Denise Turner is a historian that Dr. Dennis Turner mentioned. She's right next to me in our offices. She never told me she had a famous family. And guess what? She has a twin sister. They look just alike. I don't know when her twin comes, who works on Capitol Hill? She works on Capitol Hill, the twin, Donnie Turner. Yeah, I met her. But the whole family is just wonderful. You did a wonderful job. Thank you. But
Thanks to my wife.
oh, thanks to your, oh, you mean, oh, I thought that was one of your daughters. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. I know. I want to present you, we want to take a couple of questions for you, for you to answer. But I want to give you this certificate of appreciation. We want to thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, your energy, and everything you had to give us. So this is from the Mario Bennekin Symposium, and we want to thank you. Let's give him a hand, please, before we answer questions. Thank you. So do we have a couple of questions? Because I know you have to go to class, and also there's a QR code there, so for attendance. And even if if you don't need it for attendance, go ahead and say how you feel about the symposium so we can continue and improve at all times. So who has a question for Dr. Turner? Yes. Dr. Turner.
Dr. Turner,
Yes, sir.
I was curious about your Walter Reed experience up there. Was that connected with the Vietnam War?
Yes, the way I got to Walter Reed was that when I was in med school, I became a mission officer, second lieutenant. So what that allowed me to do was during the summers to go work at Army Hospital. So this that way you start the application. I want to go to the best Army hospital in the world. I want to go to Walter Reed. So fortunately, I was able to go. But at that time, Walter Reed was the premier hospital, and AFIP was there, Air Force Institute of Pathology. So we got referrals from all over the world. If there was something going on in the world, they didn't know what it was, they sent it to us. So I did surgery and medicine and pathology there for the summer at Walter Reed. Good thing about that was that when they commissioned me as a second lieutenant, they had to pay me as a second lieutenant. You know what I'm saying? Folks, you have to help use the system too. So I was able to take my family to DC, and we lived there for 3 months. Great experience. So that's how I.
Thank you.
Dr. Turner, I was going to ask you, what was your experience like when you went to Ghana? Was that your first time in Africa?
Oh, I had a great time in Ghana. Operation Crossroads Africa was like a mini Peace Corps, okay? But the key to it was that you volunteered to go, and you had to raise the funds to get there, okay? So with Operation Crossroads Africa, I was able to raise the funds. And what they would do is they would hook you up with Canadian students. So American students all over the United States and Canadian students. So we would go together all over Africa. And I was fortunate enough to go to Accra, Ghana, but we lived out in the bush. I don't think they call it the bush now, but that's what they called it when I was there. Out in the village, we lived there with the local inhabitants. We ate what they ate. We took baths outside. I'm talking about the 60s. And we formed great relationships. And we built a community center with raw materials. And the ladies would put these pans on their head, flat pans, and they would put the brick on their heads and they would carry them around. They had the babies around their waist. Okay. I tried to do that, but I couldn't. It fell all over me. But we had a great time. We built a community center, got to travel. I went to Kumasi, the Upper Volta. We went to all of the raw material areas. Africa is a rich country, as you know. The depressing thing about it is that we went to see where the slaves were kept, put on the slave ships and brought to America. But that's how I got there. We had a good time. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Given your impressive list of credentials and your extensive range in the workforce, what would be the one piece of advice that you would have wanted to know when you were in college?
That's a good question. That's a good question. First thing I'm going to tell all of you guys, pick your friends. Pick your friends, okay? Don't let them pick you. Pick your friends and make sure that you keep focused. Keep your eye on the prize. Julian Bond, Morehouse man. Keep your eye on the prize because there are things out there that will tend to push you from one direction. Make up your mind what you want to do. Know what's going on around you. Stay focused, and you should be okay. Okay. I've had some friends who are no longer my friends. Okay. But I didn't know that at first, but when I found that out, I do. But I was always focused, and when I was a little kid, 5 or 6, they say, my mother gave me a stethoscope and a doctor's bag. So from 6, 7, 8 years old, I always wanted to be a doctor. Fortunately, I was able to do it. So just stay focused. And it wasn't easy. It's not going to be easy for you or anybody in this room. Stay focused. Okay.
Dr. Turner's question over here.
I know that you may have visitation to the Speedy Institute. Any activities in Montgomery or Selma, or if you any activity in Selma, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Tuskegee Institute? Have you experienced any of those?
The thing about that, the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 1964. Okay. I was a senior in high school. Yeah, trying to graduate and go to Morehouse. Okay. So my experience has been related to those folks who went for me and for you, and really for all of us. Okay. This is the United States of America. And Emory has a motto, we're all in this together. Okay. So what they did for all of us. Okay. Michael Jackson, Michael,
Alabama, your experience in Mississippi.
oh, well, when I was at Meharry, we would go down to some of the poorest areas in Mississippi to work, okay? Because there was a shortage of healthcare, shortage of doctors. So we volunteer, we go down there, work in the emergency room. I delivered babies and whole 9 yards. So that was amazing. So we did have that experience, but we related to the folks who had gone. My job as a physician was to keep people healthy. Walter Reed, my job was keep them healthy, get them back to duty if they wanted to, and to take care of their families. Tripler, that's Hawaii. So all the Vietnam veterans who came, who were injured, we took care of them. Once they were stabilized, we sent them back to the States. Okay, that was a great experience. We were busy, okay. But yeah, it was a great experience. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Can you talk a little bit more about your experience in the march to Present County? I grew up in Present County.
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay, let me tell you my story. We had a resident party in Forsyth County in the 60s, okay? We were all invited. I was chief resident. I took my wife and my kids to Forsyth County, okay? We were out on the lake having a good time, and one of the surgeons came up to me and said, "It's time for you to go." I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Because it's about to get dark." And Forsyth County at that time had a sundown law that says Black and African American minorities had to be out before dark. So we got up and we left. Okay. I never went back until recently. Okay. But I got my revenge. I said things that go around, come around. I went back up there with 20,000 of my friends. Okay, walking around and doing things. So that's my story. I understand now, and if you look at the census, okay, it's all changed. A fourth of the population consists of, you know where I'm going with it, minorities, Asians, Hispanics, Caucasian, they're all living together. Now everybody wants to live up there. Okay, they can't move there fast enough. So it's changed. So, and that's the power of you guys, education, and being involved and knowing what to do and when to do it, okay? As historic, when I was in elementary school, guys, we memorized the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths that all men are created equal, okay? We memorized the Gettysburg Address. 7 years ago, we fought here. We memorized that. I'm in elementary school, okay? So you have rules and you have the Constitution and you have those tools that you need to continue to make this a great country, which it is. Atlanta's a great place, Georgia's a great place, United States is a great place, but we have some problems, okay? But that's my Forsyth County story.
I think we have time for one more question, just one. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Turner. Your feedback is short, and please have a wonderful day. And thank you, online students. Thank you for online participants. Have a great day.